Welcome back to Petrie in Prime tonight. My guest is Knowlton Nash, the veteran CBC broadcaster who will read his last newscast this weekend. My God, that sounds awful, doesn't it?
Sounds like the last edition of a Bonanza or something.
I know, it sounds so sad. We have a lot of people that would like to call you, or talk to you, so they've called. This is Norm in Toronto. Hi, Norm.
Hi, how are you?
Good, go ahead.
Knowlton,
Yeah, Norm.
you really are a veteran, and I'm going to take you way back. Way back into the early 40s. Do you remember Bolton Camp?
That's early. Oh, yes, the Bolton Toronto Star Fresh Air Camp. Yes, indeed I do, where I was a counselor there.
That's where I first met you. My name is Norm Kirk, and for 17 years I was the ad director of the Toronto Star.
Yep.
And the interesting thing is that you and I have never, ever had any contact over the last, 40 years, since Bolton Camp. But the interesting thing was that, well, you are a veteran, so I'll bring this up, but your first wife, Kathy Barron.
This was a Star Fresh Air Camp for underprivileged kids of Toronto, and it was it's an interesting point because I was always torn in my early years between wanting to go into social work or go into journalism, social work as it was called, looking after and being involved with the development of underprivileged kids, and I've always felt torn between those.
Go ahead.
I have two questions, Knowlton.
Yes.
One is, where were you born and raised?
In Toronto, raised at the beach in Toronto.
Okay. I grew up in East York. Second question, when you were in Washington, what were you doing? I thought you had a part in a public relations firm.
What I was doing in Washington, I was with British United Press down to Washington to be the Director of Information for something called the International Federation of Agricultural Producers, IFAP, which was the sort of like the International Chamber of Commerce representing agricultural organizations at the United Nations and at FAO in Rome and at OECD and other international bodies.
It's interesting, you know, how people feel so familiar towards you. They all call you, I mean, people must just say this on the street to you, "Hi, Knowlton," do they, as if they know you?
Yeah, that's nice, though. I really, it's a nice feeling about that when people do that, because you've obviously established a rapport, and that's rather nice.
Just as are more interested in your glasses or your ties, you know, or what you eat for breakfast and all those kinds of things?
Well, that can be a little distracting sometimes, because what you're really concerned about, of course, is the news and the stories, and you want to have some discussions with people, not about your tie or about what you had for breakfast, but rather about the substance of the Constitution or the substance of an East-West confrontation or about a new aid program for third world nations, and you want to talk about substance. And most people do that, in fact. They want to talk about something they want to share the information and share their ideas with you. And I've never found it a problem that people coming up to you all the time and talking. I've never found it intrusive.
But I bet you got a lot of mail about your hair, your glasses, and everything else personal.
Yeah, sure, you could get a fair bit of mail, particularly about glasses, you're right, and about ties. You know, I don't think I get as much mail, men get as much mail as women do about their clothes.
Oh, their clothes and their hair. If you cut your hair and you're a woman, you're guaranteed at least 500 letters, I think. It's just absolutely
I can't remember the last time I had a letter about my hair, I must confess. Peter Mansbridge may get some, but I don't.
Let's go to John in Timmins. Hi, John.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hi.
Okay, Knowlton?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question for you. It's concerning anchoring.
Yeah.
Now, I'm only about 15 years of age, and I enjoy watching newscasts and all that, and I am planning on being a weathercaster at an anchor in studios in Montreal. And, okay, now I've learned that you had transcripts on paper that sometimes you look at from one news subject to another. Does the same thing on a script go on the teleprompter, which you read off the camera?
What you usually do in a studio is you have a teleprompter that has your script rolling in front of the camera, but you also have to have your script because sometimes the teleprompter stops or goes backward or doesn't work at all, and so you better be pretty familiar with your script and material. But what you have to be, I think, before you can be a really effective anchor, as not counting being a weather person, but as a really effective news anchor, is to have news experience. I always feel that you really have to have been there, to have covered stories, whether in Europe or in Washington or in Ottawa or Vancouver or Calgary or Halifax. You've got to have that rooted grounding in journalism.